So my name is Gloria Castro, and I'm a teaching and research associate at the University of Strathclyde. And with my team, we have been working on assessing the use of natural language processing in reviewing STEAM research grant applications. But today, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to this project, but I will point out mostly the challenges and guidelines for performing research with special category data. So the motivation, or our motivation to come to work in this line of research, is the statement where the growth and advancement of a researcher heavily relies on their ability to secure successful grant applications. For example, in the data that I'm showing here, which was a research done in the Netherlands, they follow researchers after they applied for an early career grant. They assess their performance based on academic grants or funding that they acquire afterwards, and how many of them achieve a full professorship after within the time frame of the study. So you can see in green researchers that were successful in acquiring this early career researcher grant, and in red, researchers that were unsuccessful. So even though this has a huge effect in the development of an early career researcher, there seems to be some biases in the way that grants are assigned or in the reviewers of grants. So these are two examples, or published examples, of studies that were done in Switzerland and in the US, where there are some indications of bias towards characteristics of the researchers, such as gender, institutions, race, and ethnicities. So in the last network meeting, we got together a team of 5 diverse early career researchers from different institutions within the UK, and we thought of an idea of using natural language processing, NLP, as an additional reviewer for grant applications. So our goal is to answer the question, can we use NLP as an assistant for a bias-less grant review? We plan to do this by first collecting successful and unsuccessful grants applications from within our network, and also ask them about EDI-related data or questions. Then we plan to process this data set using NLP software, and then analyze the patterns that may come from successful and unsuccessful applications, and also see if there are any EDI-related tendencies that may arise. But before that, because we are working with data from personal data from people, we had to do many permits that included the preparation of a data management plan. This includes thinking on how we are going to collect the data, where we will start it, who will have access to it, and how we will transfer it between partners. Also, we had to work out our ethics application, in which we must consider the consent that the participants are giving us, the person's right to autonomy and dignity. We need to protect the participants' property and ensure transparency on processing and storing of the data. Within the preparation of these documents, we had to prepare also a university privacy notice for research participants, a participant information sheet, and a consent form. After that, we wrap all that together and form a plan that we use also to submit for permissions to the data protection impact assessment. And additionally, we consider all the possible risks that we could have and propose some mitigations for them. So after we finished each of these 3 proposals, we send them to each of the teams, and they come back to us with some suggestions on how to enhance security within our plan. So that sounds quite simple, but the problem is every time they come with a suggestion, it changes the plan, and therefore it changes the document that we send to each of these teams. So after 7 months of being in this loop, it has been quite full of learnings, especially for myself. I'm a civil engineer. I have never worked with this kind of data. So the first thing that I think is the most important learning is that there is much more than what is written in the website. So whenever you can just start working with these different teams, they know a lot. There are a lot of terms that relate with law, with the data security, with personal data that they are much more familiarized than we are. Also, something that I learned is that data storage security will depend a lot on the stage of your project and what you need it for. So, for example, we needed to collect data between institutions. So the safest way to do it will be OneDrive for Business. But then after data collection is more secure if you remove this data from the internet and have only one person with access. So then the best way is using an H drive. But later when we start assessing risks, we realize that if only one person has access to this data, what happens if something happens to this person? So then you need to assign 2 people to have access to the data and change to an iDrive. Another important point is anonymization, that it is a priority, but also is a priority that you give the participants the option to withdraw their data whenever they want. So you cannot do anonymization, but you have to move to pseudo anonymization. And this means that we will remove all the possible identifiers, direct and indirect, but we will keep a code connecting the data set with the participants' information. Another important point is assessing the software that we are going to use, because this can bring additional perks to the story. And this is because you need to assess if the software that you want to use will imply transferring international data, or how much access will they have to your personal data. And the last part is preparing a data sharing agreement, which is a contract between the institutions that will be sharing data, which has been a bit painful for us. So lawful basis for processing are set out in Article 6 of the UK GDPR, and we need to choose at least one of them to be able to process personal data. So in our case, because we were asking for consent, we thought, okay, we probably need to process the data based on consent. But public universities cannot process data based on consent, and we have to process it in terms of public tasks. This is not the case for our partners, which is the Institute of Physics. So we are quite in a pair at the moment. So with the data processing teams at both institutions and within our team, we have been thinking in alternatives or options on how to come around this problem. And we have come out with 2 options. The first one is that we process the data based on different data bases, law bases for processing. The good thing about this is we can continue with the project as planned with the same outcome, but the con of this is that it can raise concerns of transparency, and this is because we should ask the questions to ourselves, which is, would it be simple enough for participants to understand how their data is being processed? And then the second option is change a bit the scope of the project and focus only on publicly available data. We, within the team, investigated what we can find from the EPSRC website, and there is a lot of information on grants, in general, on the PI and the proposal. We can even have access to information on the panel members as well. And we were thinking that an option is to do a Google search-based profile on the PI and the panel members. The pros is that this simplifies the necessary permits needed, and we could start the project actually. But we have against that we won't have the unsuccessful grants, which will be quite bad. So this is where we are. Thank you for